Today, we're diving headfirst into one of the trickiest, most painful parts of human relationships: deception. We're going to unpack the psychology behind why people lie, especially to the ones they say they love the most. I mean, it's a huge paradox, right? Why does dishonesty seem to creep into our most important connections? That's the big question we're tackling. And we're going to look at everything from the so-called harmless white lie all the way to some really dark, calculated manipulation. So first thing you need to know is that not all lies are created equal. You've got two major camps. On one side, you have lies that are meant to protect someone's feelings or even the relationship itself. But on the other end of the spectrum, you've got lies designed purely to control and dominate. Knowing the difference is absolutely the first step. Okay, so let's start with the most common kind of lie. These are the ones that aren't told out of malice, but really from a desire to keep the peace. You could almost think of them as the social glue that holds things together sometimes. The official term for these is pro-social lies. And it's all about the intention, right? They have benevolent intentions. We're actually taught to tell these kinds of lies from a super young age. You know, when your parents tell you to say you love a gift, even if you really, really don't. And we do it all the time in relationships. We do it to spare their feelings, like telling them that disastrous new recipe was delicious, or we do it to protect their face, their self-esteem, or just to avoid a pointless argument. It really comes down to compassion and just wanting to keep things running smoothly. But, and this is a huge but, here's where things get tricky. This quote really nails it. Even lies with good intentions can totally backfire. See, by avoiding a small, uncomfortable truth today, you might be setting yourself up for a much bigger, more damaging problem down the road. You're kicking the can, and sometimes that can leads to a cliff. So let's pivot. We're shifting from lies that come from a place of compassion to lies that are born from a deep, deep-seated fear. And to really get this next layer, we have to talk about something called adults' attachment theory. This chart just lays it out so clearly. Look at the numbers. If you have a secure attachment style, there's actually a negative correlation with lying. Basically, the safer and more secure you feel, the less you lie. But then look at the anxious and avoidant styles, both have pretty strong positive correlations. As those insecurities go up, well, so does the lying. And here's the kicker. They lie for completely opposite reasons. Someone with an anxious attachment style might lie to get approval or to make sure you don't leave them. They're trying to pull you closer. But someone with an avoidant style, they'll lie to create distance, to keep their independence, because they're terrified of getting too close. Two sides of the same fearful coin. All right, now we have to go to the darkest end of the spectrum. This is where lying stops being a flawed coping mechanism and starts being a weapon. This is the world of the dark triad personality traits. So, the dark triad is this toxic cocktail of three traits: narcissism, Machiavellianism, and psychopathy. For people who are high in these traits, lying isn't a last resort. No, it's their go-to move. It's the primary tool they use to get exactly what they want. And each one has its own flavor of deception. The narcissist lies to pump up their own ego, to maintain this perfect, grandiose image of themselves. The Machiavellian, they lie strategically, like a chess player, always thinking about power and personal gain. And the psychopath? They lie without a flicker of remorse, sometimes just for the thrill of getting away with it. One of their signature moves, especially for narcissists, is gaslighting. And this is so insidious. It's the systematic process of making you question your own sanity. They'll say things like, "You're crazy," or "That never happened." The whole point is to erode your reality so that you become dependent on theirs. Okay, so with all these different kinds of lies floating around, how do you even begin to spot them? Well, it turns out the very act of lying can cause the liar to give themselves away. There are cracks in the mask, and we're going to look at how to see them. The key concept here is something called cognitive load. Put simply, lying is hard work for your brain. It's exhausting. You have to suppress the truth, invent a new story, act out that new story, watch the other person's reaction, and remember the lie for later, all at the same time. It's a massive mental juggling act, and eventually people start dropping the balls. And that overload leads to what's called leakage. And forget all that pop psychology stuff about people not making eye contact. The real clues are way more subtle. It's things like using vague language, saying there was a situation instead of I did something. It's overusing words like never and always, or deflecting by getting morally outraged at the accusation itself. Their brain is working so hard to manage the lie that it can't perfectly control everything else. If you remember one thing, make it this. It's such a powerful rule of thumb. The truth directly answers a question. A lie will almost always try to redirect it. They'll distract you, they'll turn it back on you, or they'll answer a totally different question you didn't even ask. So for this last part, we're going to do something a little different. We're going to turn the camera around because, as it turns out, the person most responsible for letting a manipulator into our lives is very often ourselves. Now, this is a pretty wild evolutionary idea. The theory goes that we actually evolved the ability to deceive ourselves first, so that we could become better liars to other people. Think about it. If you can truly convince yourself that what you're saying is true, well, that whole cognitive load thing just disappears. You can lie with a straight face because deep down, you've already bought your own lie. And this right here, this is the manipulator's favorite weapon. It's our own truth bias. We are hardwired to want to believe the people we love. That trust is the glue of a healthy relationship, but it's also the back door that liars sneak through. And if we're honest, sometimes we actively help them by choosing to ignore the red flags. So what do? The goal isn't to become a human lie detector and get all paranoid. It's really about self-awareness. First, you have to acknowledge your own bias, that you want to believe them. Then you have to look for places where you might be lying to yourself. Learn to spot those evasive tactics we talked about. And then the most important part, set and enforce healthy boundaries. And we're going to end on this one last question for you to think about. Because at the end of the day, the most damaging lie isn't always the one someone tells you. It's the truth you refuse to tell yourself. So, what truth might you be avoiding right now just to keep the peace?